All right, there we go, gentlemen. All right, good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Rabbi.
Today is Daf Chav Beis, Masechah Sukkah.
Amazing.
And away we go. New Mishnah. Mishnah on top. First line, first word. Sukkah ha-miduvlelas. A sukkah which is miduvlelas. There's a machlokes in the Gemara as to what that is, and we'll soon see. I will not explain before. Ve'u shetzilas meruba mechamasa, and or we'll soon see also in the Gemara, depends on Rav Shmuel, or if its shade is more than its sunlight, kshera. So a sukkah meduvlelas is kosher, whatever that is. That was case one, or possibly case two, right? That was the ratio. Now the Sefer says, Hamuva can mean bias if there's so much schach on top, it's like a house. If there's so much schach and you can't even see the stars, it's still kosher. No big deal. No biggie. Let's see. Zok the Gemara. Samai meduvlelas. What does it mean? Sukkah meduvlelas, which you said it was kosher. Samarav. Sukkah niyah. Rav said a sukkah, a poor sukkah, right? A sukkah with not a lot of schach, right? But obviously there has to be enough schach to be, 51%. Ushmal Amar, kana eila v'kana yari. He says, you know what it is? It's a staggered schach. In other words, you got one beam over here, you got one beam down here, one beam over here, one beam here. So it's staggered, right? The schach is staggered like two different levels. Rav Tani Chada, according to Rav, actually the Reisha is one case, and we'll explain. Ushmuel Tani Tarti, Shmuel, according to Shmuel, it's two different cases. Let's see. Rav Tani Chada, Rav says that it's one case, Sukkah meduvlelas, and Sukkah meduvlelas, and my meduvlelas. What does it mean? Something which is meduvlelas, which is poor, or right, meager. Right? It's poor. But there, as long as there's enough shade, more right. So as long as there's shade, more shade than sun, then it's kshera. So it's one case. It's like one explaining each other. Ushmuel Amar and Shmuel, according to Shmuel, Tani Tarti, he says two cases. My miduvlelas. What does it mean, miduvlelas? Some miduvlelas, in other words, that it's miduvlelas. In other words, it's staggered. Viktani, it's Vitarti. There's two cases. Sukkah meduvlelas kshera. If one is staggered, it's kshera. It's chamasa. Another case, if there's more shade than sun, then it is kosher. Amar Abaye, says Abaye, lo shanu ella. Now that which according in Shmuel that we said we're talking about basically a staggered schach. Lo shanu ella shein bein zelazesh tvachim. Only talking about if they're staggered within 3 tvachim in height. Right? They have to be within each other. Now, you can't have one all the way up here and one down here. They have to be within 3 tvachim, right? 3 handbreadths. Aval yesh ben zeh gimel tvachim, but it's at least 3 tvachim. Then it's psula. Then it's no good because it's considered to be separated, and either level has enough schach. And Amar Rava afilu yesh ben zeh shlosh tvachim nami lo. Right? Even if there's more than 3 tvachim, that's okay, right? When it's possible. Each board, right? Imagine the boards, one on top, one on bottom, one on top, one on bottom. Only if it's more than 3, it's no good. If the board is not a tefach wide, okay? It's not it's too thin. However, but if it's wide enough, then we say it's kshera. Then it's kasha wide. Darmin and chavar ravi. We say another halakha we say called chavar ravi. Chavar ravi means that. Since this 2x4, right? I was looking for something, right? So, right. So I guess my arm, right? So since this is right. So since this is wide enough, right? Since this is wide enough, then it's like it goes down, and then it goes down, and even if it's more than 3 tefachim, it's like it goes down to the other levels. Even the other levels 5 tefachim below it, it's considered to be halachically to go down and all be on the same level. But the board has to be wide enough. If it's too thin, it doesn't halachically go down. And Omar Rava, Minamin Allah. How do I know the Chiyisei Tavach Amrinan? Is that what I got? Is that left off? Yeah. All right. And Omar Rava, Minamin Allah, the Chiyisei Betafach Amrina Chavarami. How do I know that if it has a tefach, then we say Chavarami, V'chi Lesle Be Lo Yamrina Chavarami? But if it doesn't have a tefach, then it doesn't halachically come down as if it's the lower level. The Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Koros Havayis Va'aliyah She'ein Aleim Ma'aziva. There are beams of a house. Right, there are beams. There's basically 2 levels. The lower floor and the upper floor and there is no pitch, right? Vehein, there's regular boards. Vehein mechabanos, right? Mechabanos. They are, one is on top of each other. So in other words, there's space between each one, but each one is right on directly on top of the one underneath it. I think there's a picture in the article. By 19, number 19. So you see, the one is on top of the other. So tachas tachas achas mehen tame. If it's underneath one of the boards, right, then that level is tame. Bein hatachtoina le'elyona. If it's between, right, in other words, if it's on one of the boards in the middle level, right, in between the two levels of boards, then bein hatachtoina le'elyona benei and tame. Then the tuma, if there's a dead body over there. So it goes up to the board, and then it spreads only on the level, but it doesn't go below the boards underneath it, and it doesn't go out of the rakia because the board is blocking it. And al gabi al yon, if the tumah is on top, then connect the al rakia tummy only goes up in the air, but it doesn't go down. Now, hayu al yonis kebena tachtainos. If they were staggered, in other words, one was the first tefach, or let's just assume a tefach right now. Then the next one was, and then level on the bottom is a tefach, right? There's a picture in the art school that's by picture number, I guess, 22 or 23, right? Whichever one that's go on, right? So it's staggered. So now, what happens in this case? So we say, I keep turning away and moving my finger. Right? So tuma tachten, if there's tuma on the bottom, tachas kulon tame, right? Everything underneath it is tame. In other words, let's say it's a bottom floor. So even though it's on the bottom, everything underneath is tame. Why? Because it's all one level. Because it's staggered. The other case, it was closed, open, because above it went up to the sky. But this one is staggered. Since it's staggered, it's all considered to be roofed. All right, and therefore any tumah underneath it is tamei. Al gabei is on top of it. Connect on the rakia tamei, right? And if it's on if it's on top of them, then connect on the rakia is tamei. Only above it is to the sky is tamei, but not below it. The Tanya Allah, it says over there, when each board is at least a tefach, and between them is a tefach. So now, when do we say that the boards can halachically go down together? Only if it's a tefach thick. Then it comes down. Then it's on like one level, and then it can be halach of ohel when it comes to tumah that it spreads out. So only if the boards are a tefach thick, then they can come down and be considered to be like in the same level, like we're saying with the schach, right? But there is no tefach. Then tuma tachas achas miyam tachtei tam b'neim al gabei antar. But if it's not, then only if it's underneath that single board, then it is. But if it's not under that board, but it's under the airspace under the first level, it wouldn't be anything. It wouldn't be tamei over there because it does not consider to be like it's spread down. Alma, what do you see over there? Keys bay tefach. I mean, in the chavarami. When there is a tefach, why? That's only when you say chavarami. B'chilas tefach chavarami. Shmamina. So indeed, but if there is no tefach, then you don't say chavarami. So therefore, in this case in Shmuel, we say even if it's more than 3 tvachim apart, if it's more, each board is more than tefach wide, then we consider like one level. Otherwise, if they're too thin, then they have to be within 3 tvachim together. If they're not, then it wouldn't be good according to Shmuel. Fine. And yesterday, Rav Kana became a Lo Shmaitza. Rav Kana was teaching over this lane, but it was Rav Ashi. Rav Kana said, Rav Ashi, Rav Kana. What if there's no? If it's not a tefach, we don't say chavarami. Nothing can come down. The Tanya, we learn in a brayso. In the case by Eruvin, kara hayotzim b'kayis zev. Remember, you have it's an open, not open courtyard, a closed courtyard, but with one open end, not as opposed to a mavi mafulosh. You have a mavi, 3 edges. So the 4th end, put up a beam. In order so people can go ahead and carry inside. So this beam, it goes out, right? But it doesn't touch the other wall, right? It only comes up. It doesn't touch it. Or there's 2 beams, but they don't touch in the middle, right? It's supposed to be connected, but it's not. There's some separation. If they're within 3 tefachim for one another, so you don't have to connect them. Within 3 tefachim, it's fine, right? No big deal. Shleisha, But if it's 3 or more, then then you have to go ahead and connect them or make sure it goes all the way to the other side if it was one beam. And Rav Shimon Gamliel says, turn the page, Pachis me arba'ah, right? Arba'ah is arba'ah tfachim, right? Less than 4 tfachim, ain't tzarich lavi kara. He says, no, the halacha is not 3. The halacha is actually a space of 4. Lavi kara cheres. However, arba'ah, if it is 4, then tzarich lavi kara cheres. Then you do indeed have to go ahead and bring another beam. So too, you have 2 board. Now there is halach. Normally, you need a standard, right, for the korah, for the beam. Right, it has to be able to hold something, right? You want to say we use wires nowadays, right? So that's a completely different case. But anyways, in this case over here, the beam has to be able to strong enough, tefach, basically to hold like a brick, right? That's normally a halach requirement there. So we say, if there's 2 of them, each one on its own is not strong enough. However, if they're able to go ahead and hold, right, a brick, right, and it's with a tefach, then you don't have to go ahead and bring another beam. Then these 2 smaller ones are sufficient. If not, you have to go ahead and bring another one. No, it's not that if you can hold it the widthwise, it's lengthwise. Which is 3 tvachim. Ain't tzarich levi korah cheres. You have to bring another korah. And if not, tzarich lahavi korah cheres. You have to bring another korah. Hayu achas lamala, the achas lamata. You have 2 thin korahs, but they're not on the same level, right? They're, one is on top of the other. Achas lamala, achas lamata. Rav Yosef, Rav Yehuda Omer. Right? We look at them basically, either the higher ones with the lower one, and the lower ones with the higher one. They're together. Ubilvad, however, on the condition that the upper one can't be above 20 amos, which is a requirement, right? That the korah has to be below 20 amos. But and the lower one, it can't be below 10 tefachim because that's the minimum height for the korah. But each one is within 20 amos, right, and above 10 tefachim. Then we do say, even though they're not on the same height, we're saying it's like they're together. Even though there's no tefach, it doesn't say there's a requirement of that there has to be. We know it's not a tefach because each one on its own is not a tefach, right? So each one is a half a tefach, let's say, and nevertheless, it seems to be the only requirement then it has to be above 10 tefachim and below 20 amos. So if it's above 10 and below 20, then it's all considered, right, to be in the same level, even though it's not a tefach wide. You see chavarami there. Samarlei, taretz, ve'imahach. No, I can give it teretz and you say like this. Ubilvad, shaloite el yoinu l'mala me'asrim. No, the upper one can't be above 20. El b'soich asrim, rather it has to be underneath 20 amos. V'atachtoina smuch lo b'pachas meshleisha. And the one beneath it has to be within 3 tefachim of it. In other words, we don't need to say chavarami. Why? Because they're less than 3 tefachim before, which is what we said in our case by sukkah, right? As long as it's within 3 tefachim, it's like it's already at the same level. You don't need to say chavarami that it comes down 3 plus tefachim.
What's the case here that we're discussing? I mean, I understand all the
right.
What are we discussing?
Eruv.
What's this Eruv?
Eruv, right? The mavui, right? Well, so the mavui, the courtyard, in order to have right. So, or ubilvad as long as the lower one is not below 10 tefachim, is above 10 tefachim, and the one above it, which is let's say half a tefach, is within 3 tefachim of it in terms of height, and therefore it's on the same level. Aval shleisha, but if it's at least 3 or more, came in the last tefach. But if it was 3 or more, then since each one does not have is not tefach wide, we would not go ahead and say chavut rami. Fine, 2 dots. And then we said if there is more shade than sun, then it's kosher. So let's see. So if you confirm here, it says if there's more shade, then it's kosher. Sounds like it's 50-50, right? It's puzzle, right? It didn't say 50-50 is kosher, right? So it has to be more. It has to be 51% shade. Sounds like 50-50 is puzzle. But I go ahead and be Daf Perik, and you go ahead and look at the first Daf Beis Amud Aleph. It says over there, it says over there, if there's more sun, If there's 51% sun, then it's puzzle. Kiadari sounds like if it's 50-50, kshera. So it's kosher. So which one is it? My answer is like kasher. No, not a contradiction. Kan milamala, kan milamata. So one is measuring the shade on the bottom. Okay, if you measure there, shade on the bottom. The other one is measuring the coverage on top. And the halacha, or the assumption is that light spreads out. Okay, so therefore, light spreads out. If the light on the bottom is 50-50, right, then you know on top, right, then there's a little less sun on top. There's more shade. So therefore, that which we said 50-50 is kosher is referring to the bottom.
That doesn't make sense.
So the example is if you have a piece of paper and you poke a little tiny hole.
No, I know that.
And then so therefore the light spreads out more.
Well, you're not measuring. You're measuring shade. That's the cover.
So what is the shade? So are you measuring it at the ground? Right? Where is the shade? So you measure the ground and measure the top. So it's really the same thing. You can measure either way. But so the 50-50, right, only works at the bottom. Because if it's 50-50 on top, right, then there's going to be more sun on the bottom. That's no good. So therefore, that's the case in the previous Mishnah. Excuse me, in our case, right, where he says 50-50 is puzzle, it's 50-50 on top. But it's 50-50 on bottom, then it's good because you know that there's more coverage on top, right? But people say, right? Like something which is the size of a zuz, the smaller coin on top, is on the bottom, the size of Easter underneath, which is larger, right? So like, you poke a hole on top, so a little, tiny little hole will create more light at the bottom. Two dots, and we say, Ma'uba kimin bayis, if it's so much schachana like a house, you can't even see the stars, Taner Rabbanan, Hamuba kimin bayis, Afal Pishen and Kochavim, Nirin, Nizoicha, even though you can't see the stars, Kshera. Ein Kochavei Chama Nirin, but if you can't see the sunlight, right, from so much schachana, you can't even see the rays of the sun, right? Then Beis Shammai placed it. Beis Shammai says no good, right? Beis Shammai says no good. Beis Hillel Machshin, Beis Hillel says it's kosher because it's schach. And Beis Shammai says no, it's too much like a house, right? You can't even see any sunlight go through, and therefore the machlok is between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. So we'll stop over here at the Mishnah, as I was told by Rabbi Rees, who Mitzvah Hashem will be starting here tomorrow. So I got to go to New York. My son's going.